My name is Janelle Gage. I'm 22. I'm from a small town in BC called Merritt, but right now I'm currently living in Vancouver and I'm in my fourth, but technically my fifth year at UBC, and I'll be graduating next semester. I am working a lot in oil painting and sculpture at the moment. Kind of have interests in a lot of different media. Um, and I have way too many hobbies. Um, I'm also really into fashion and clothing, vintage fashion in particular, which I think informs my practice, as well as poetry. Tattooing is also definitely a large aspect of how I work and what inspires me. I do a lot of collage, sketches, graffiti. I technically go by JAG in my artistic practice, which is also my tag in graffiti. I think I've noticed recently that a lot of my work has to do with the body, um, my own body particularly, and obviously the female body, um, along with that. I have kind of been doing this unconsciously for the past couple years, just always comes to the forefront of my mind when I'm thinking of ideas for new projects. I don't know if it's out of just convenience, because I use my own body as a reference a lot of the time in my work. Um, I just used it in this sculpture that I just completed last week, where I traced my own body onto a piece of paper, really big piece of paper, and then traced that onto the wood as this silhouette that I was creating. Um, it's also been used in a lot of my paintings and drawings. Um, Not sure why I always return to this kind of subject matter. I think, well, I know that a lot of my work is based in feminism and social justice. And I think unconsciously, it's definitely related to how other people view my body, how I view my body, um, what that means to me, how it affects my life. I think it's really strange to exist in a physical form, especially one that determines your worth and your identity in the eyes of others. I think also I've spent my entire life trying to understand my own physical form and what it looks like to others, how other people view me, trying to see myself from an objective point of view, I think is why I've tried to depict it so often. But I think no matter how many times I do it, I feel like I never fully understand myself, whether it's what I look like or who I am internally. Um, Sometimes I think I get glimpses of who I actually am. Like if my brain is working in a way that it might not usually be, if that makes sense. Um, or, just the way that others describe me, um, what my friends tell me they think I am, who my family tells me I think I am, um, the people that know me the best, describing me to myself somehow gives me a clearer picture, but also a much hazier one at the same time, I think. Um, and I think it's really strange to base knowledge of myself, like something that should be so innate and capturable, off of like small pieces that are given to me by someone or something else that isn't my own brain. Um, I think it's really strange to be a body and a soul at once. I'm not sure how to deal with that. And I think that's something that's a big part of my practice as well. Um, been thinking a lot recently about the body, but also just what it means to leave your body behind. What are you without your body? Um, Recently, my dog had to be put down, and it was a really strange experience for me. Like, obviously, quite traumatic, but this was the dog that I had from when I was about 11 years old until this year. So she was quite old and she had a great life, but it was so strange for me to like witness her being put down because it's such a different way than how we usually think of death, I guess. Like just watching her be there 1 second and then the next, it was like her body was no longer her, like it had just disappeared and um, her physical form was all that was left behind. But it still felt, even though I knew that that was no longer necessarily her, she wasn't in that form, it still felt so strange to just leave it behind. Um, so I've been thinking a lot about that and just the difference, like the shock that I felt in seeing like her physical form be completely limp because I'd never seen it that way before. Um, I was just really moved, and I can't seem to get that out of my head. Can't stop thinking about what that means for me and what that means for humans as well as animals. I think animals are also genuinely, I think, a large aspect of what I'm thinking about when I'm creating. Um, for a lot of reasons, I've always felt really connected to other beings like animals and dogs in particular. I've worked in multiple dog daycares in the last 3 years of my life. And it's been interesting to get to know certain other beings so closely because you're with them for 8 hours a day and you just get to sort of memorize. It's almost like a different language. It's just body language, of course, but animals communicate in essentially their own language. It's just not a language how we would look at it. Um, they speak with like their eyes and obviously with barks and whines, but also just the way that they look at you, the way they react to things. It's a really unique way of expressing yourself that I think a lot of people don't really recognize as a valid form of expressing yourself. Um, so I think that's important to me. I've done a lot of work involving dogs. I did this one piece when I was working at a dog daycare in Vancouver, that was made entirely out of dog hair, which everyone else hated. Obviously, not the people in my class, but my roommates were really disgusted with me, and I felt really weird taking hair from other people's dogs without them knowing, but it was really cool piece to work on, and I think um, animals are treated often in the same way that certain people are treated, um, whether it's due to your gender or your background, just like who you are, um, which, like for them, is something that we can't control. And I think that's just an interesting dynamic. I'm definitely thinking along those lines of, and what does it mean to be both a body, a physical form, as well as a spiritual one, if I might put it that way. And a lot of that is represented by the form of the body and my body.